WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American. Over here in Germany, often reviewing rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have Teeling Crystal Single Malt. Now, I've been looking forward to this bottle since January 2024, over half of a year now. I've asked 3 different people when they were in Dublin, could you bring me back a bottle? Oh, Jason, I'm sorry, I didn't have space. Oh, I forgot, whatever. So I was finally at Whiskey Life Dublin in May of 2024, bought the bottle, the first bottle I wanted. I wanted this bottle because I thought the fact of Crystal Malt being used in Teeling is so exciting. Bushmills, 1608, the 400th year anniversary of the rights granted to make whiskey, aquavite, Ushkaba, back then in Ireland, was celebrated, and they used Crystal Malt, and I love that bottle. An auction, every once in a while, I'm bidding on them. It's like I'm willing to pay, I think it was like 40 euros back then. I'm willing to pay double, 80, and I still usually am outbid. Beautiful, beautiful gift box, nice whiskey. I thoroughly loved it. I was like, this has to be just as good, right? All right, so Whiskybase 249018. 18,000 bottles of this were made, and it was aged in American virgin oak. Were the virgin oak casks toasted? Were they charred? Virgin American oak. 46%, and at the Dublin airport, the Loop, 80 euros is what I paid for this bottle. This bottle just hit the market this week in Germany. I was not expecting that. I would have waited had I known. I am seeing prices between 65 euros and 53 euros. That's crazy. All right, so the recommended retail price in Ireland was 80, and there are stores at the moment discounting this by 10% already, at $59.99 and going, hey, let's go for $53.91. I'm just shocked. All right, so that's okay. Yeah. So, what is Crystal Malt, you do ask? Now, Crystal Malt is one of the traditional British color malts used often in the beer brewing industry. So we have brown malt, we have amber malt, we have chocolate malt, we have black malts, and we have crystal malt. Now, during the malting process, the barley is steeped and germinates just like classic, fully modified pale malt, but then moved wet with a moisture content of almost 50% past the kiln directly into the roasting tun. There it is heated without any type of ventilation, without any extra oxygen, to roughly 46 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Celsius, around there. So 147 to 162 Fahrenheit. And now the contents of the endosperm liquefy. So what do we do by putting in the water? We have the endosperm, is that little part in the seed, and that wants to germinate and changes all the starch into sugar. That liquefies, and the starch is saccharified by high alpha and beta amylase. So I'm still learning my vocabulary here. Amylase action. That's the changing of the starch to the sugars. So, and if you don't know what that is, just type in the word saccharification. And this is that phase of 64 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit is called the stewing stage. All right, because we liquefy that endosperm by making it. All right, and then the malt is dried at a very high temperature of 280 to 390 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be 140 degrees Celsius, 200 degrees Celsius. And this is called the curing stage. So it darkens the kernels. It causes the malt sugars created through the saccharification to crystallize. That liquid moment crystallizes crystal into hard, unfermentable dextrins, which after they cool They turn into those crystals. And in a beer, these sugars are responsible for a clean, nutty, caramel residue sweetness. And the entire drum process of making crystal malt may take about 3 hours, and the finished crystal malt may have a moisture content of 5 to 7%. So, and this is not uncommon in beer. Unfortunately, Teeling wrote in the press release that they were the first in all of Ireland to ever done that. Learn your Irish whiskey history, guys, all right? I'm sorry. And the next thing that I'm going to mention is I was promised by the European sales manager that every single bottle that Teeling makes themselves, that has the embossed bottle in the back, is made in Dublin. If it's smooth like this, it is made someplace else. Now this is smooth, there is nothing, and yet this was made in Dublin. This is one of my main gripes about Teeling. I can never tell by the bottle or the label what is made in Dublin and what is sourced whiskeys. Now, I think a lot of companies did this much better than you did by saying, hey, this is source whiskey. Just take New Riff, for example, in America. This is called OKI. And as soon as we put our own whiskey on the market, it's called the name New Riff. I would have celebrated it from the very beginning had Teeling said, hey, our source whiskey is called Spade and Bushel. Our real whiskey is called Connacht. Other distilleries have done that. But no, they tried to carry on and use their name for sourced and own juice. And that transition for a phase that we're now in is very, very bad. Just one example, all right? This was bottled 2024. This was bottled 10 years ago before the distillery was even finished built. This is from 2014, all right? And so this is the single malt. This is one of my favorite single malts of Teeling ever because it was made by Cooley. And none of their own juice in here, and this is fabulous. If you try the 2021 or 2022 or the 2023 single malts, they taste different because they're not made by Cooley, they're made by Teeling. And that's a major, major problem we have here. All right, but this special Teeling crystal malt, crystal single malt is special, all right? Would love to know an age. No age statement. Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 5? I don't think it's 5. All right, if it's 5, it's really going to surprise me. Good. On the nose. Wow, that's green. I wish I had the blue bottle here. It reminds me very much of the single malt they made themselves way back when. It's got to be, what, 4 or 5 years ago when it first hit the market. Green pears, green birch. Think not ripe green pears. Think spring birch where you pull off the bark and that green sap. Fresh barrels shouldn't be as green as this. Think kiln dried wood and not air dried wood. This is not acceptable in my book. The nose is a D. That's 46% ABV. It's 80 euros for a non-age stated product. And I was lured in by my memories of the Bushmills 1608. Does anyone remember that? That was so good. I think I had 1 or 2 bottles. I had 1 bottle at least. And I savored that bottle for like 2 years. Beautiful, beautiful present. Gift box. I still regret not buying a new one. Maybe one day I'll get on a new auction. Don't bid against me, please. Please, please, please. All right, cheers. There is a certain sweetness. It's not all bad here. The virgin oak takes over. There's a lot of oakiness. There's a little bit of spice. Do I get that characteristic nuttiness? Maybe. Do I get that caramel-like residual sweetness? Maybe. Do I love the fact that Teeling is experimenting with different mash bills even in their single malt. Yes, I'm screaming. On different live streams in German, I'm arguing, please, in Scotland, as well as Ireland, as well as Germany, and even in America with the single malt, use different types of malt. I mentioned there's brown malt, there's amber malt, there's chocolate malt, there's black malt, there's crystal malt, there's all these, there's caramels, there's all these different types of malts, and we have heritage malts. Waterford has their Hunter, and other places have their other brands. There's all these different types of barleys, malted barleys out there, and it's still single malt. Go for it. And yet, this does not excite me. And yet, I'm disappointed I bought the bottle. And yet, I'm a little bit peeved that I had to pay 80 euros for a product I can get for 53 now in my home country. You know? I'm going to be fairly lenient. This is a C- D+ product. All right? This is not something I would go out and buy again. This is not something I'd recommend anybody buying. But I do commend Teeling on its experimentation. So what happens if it's a bad experiment? You just kind of mish it under other things. You can do that. But I like it that they put this out and said, hey, I'm not really sure. It says here Crystal Collection. Is there going to be more? That'd be kind of cool. All right, good bottle, good gift box here. Very, very nice packaging. But I would go out the first time and buy it for 55 euros and not be disappointed at all. I would try it and go, oh, I need to have some friends over and let them try it as well. As I said, it's not terrible. It's a C- D+. It's very green. It's very young. It's not yet there where it could and should be. They put it out, in my opinion, too early. The wood spice is minimal. It hasn't taken over and overpowered this, but the distillate itself is not yet there. In comparison, this single malt here from the year 2014, bottled 2014. I love the explosion at the end. Oh, so good. So, what is your favorite product so far? I would love for Teeling to help us understand which products are sourced and which products are actually made by them. And what product do you like best that has any type of crystal malt involved in it? Could be beer, could be whiskey, could be a different product. Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, and telling others about this crazy guy over in Germany tasting rare and exotic whiskeys a lot of the time. Bye-bye.